All right, looks like I am live. I know I'm a bit early, trying to get in the habit of starting a bit early. Today is a chest day, probably not going to go too heavy because I keep messing up my pecs, trying to do some relatively heavy bench press, but should be a decent workout. Uh, I doubt anyone's actually on just yet. I might be actually just talking to myself. Nope, we're good. All right. So just warming up now. The way this works, if you're new, just drop your questions in the chat and I will most likely answer them because I cannot stand standing here in silence. Ugh. Man, guys, I am tired today. Allergies are acting up. Business stuff is picking up. What's up, Crazed? Tony, I think you're also a regular. Let's see. My computer's being a little funky over here, so give me 1 second. I'm on. All right, so actually got a decent crowd to start. I guess I can start with my first complaint. And this is against no one in particular. I just saw it on the Discord. If one of the mods is watching, could you link the Discord? Anyway, so someone posted a tube with a massage gun attached to it horizontally because they are trying to mimic foul back. All right? And what's confusing to me is that we've had 3 to 4 months with it in our lives, at least on the Reddit, and no one had significant gains with it. Why are we still trying to mimic it? Like, it just drives me nuts thinking about it. Like, I don't know what it is. I don't know. It's just because I have like some bad emotions associated with it still. But that stuff seriously pisses me off more than anything else in my life at the moment. All right, I guess we can go over the conversation that happened an hour ago. Okay, so first, Zero, what do you recommend I use for soft hypoxic clamping? Where to get it? So I use the rings that I sell on peakmalphysique.com. They are just hard, well, not hard, they are strong, soft silicone rings. They come in 3 sizes. You can mix and match to get the perfect pressure. A lot of people will also use like something called toe shields, which are something basically you can find at almost any pharmacy. But basically you cut off the top and you use them to make little sleeves and you keep stacking the sleeves. One toe or one of my cock rings is like 3 to 4 toe shields, in at least what I perceive as effectiveness. We do ship to the UK, however, it can be a little bit expensive due to import cost and shipping. So you're better off looking around in your home country first. But, you know, if you can't find it, it's there at Peak Male Physique. Okay. JB. I am not new to PE. In recent time, I've been using the best extender. The best strain I got from PE was a max 5% because of you. I've added vibration and got 7% strain constantly. You are welcome, and I'm assuming you mean 7% in device. So, good job. I don't think I've ever actually got that high. I usually get to about 6% before my skin starts basically giving up on life. So, ugh. I measure 6 1/4, says Jeff, in a vacuum cup with the apex of 2 pounds to start detention. After 40 minutes, I quickly work up to about 5 pounds of measure at 7.25 at 2 pounds. Is this too much? Well, 15% Increase most likely means you're not actually measuring at your full length to begin with. 2 pounds really isn't that much in the grand scheme of things. So like within your first 5 minutes, like when you get to 5 pounds, that's when I would base it off of. Nothing wrong with starting slow. I just think you're not really going to be seeing any real results until you get about 5 pounds. I'm missing a cable for handles, or handle for cables. Crazed MMA. What's my favorite exercise for weightlifting? Honestly, flies, I would say. Just because I get really good muscle mind activity, but you know, I'll do basically anything. I enjoy everything but legs for the most part. Okay. So, Mr. Tula, this past 2 weeks, uh, this is my routine. My flaccid and EQ are great. Can you rate my routine? I mean, maybe if it shows up. I've been doing tunica release, says 0, then 20 minutes pumping in the AM and 10 minutes pumping in the PM. Should I do 1 30-minute session or keep it split? I would say keep it split, especially if you're already doing 20 minutes in one session, because what I've been doing is basically 10 minutes AM, 10 minutes PM, and then around lunchtime I do my actual routine. So, yeah. Basically, the idea is the more often you agitate the tissue, I just keep saying agitate because it kind of makes more sense that way in my head. But the more often you inflate the tissue, the more likely it is going to take that shape. And Crazed MMA, I do have a Discord. I would have to like pull out my tablet to pull it out, and it would be a bit of a pain in the ass. So if there's any Discord mods or people with access to the Discord that is a mod, please copy and paste the link here. I can also probably text Red to do that. Okay, Tula, 30 minutes of interval extending with the apex, then 5 minutes of soft clamping, and then 10 minutes of air interval pumping. That's basically what I have in my books for like intermediates. The only thing I would really consider is increasing time under tension if you're going for leg. All right, let me text Red. Telegram, no, Teams. Okay, let me raise the weight and then I will get to more questions. Sorry if you heard a weird pop. My microphone hit this rack. Okay. Lance, hey there. First off, I appreciate your time for taking to share your expertise. You're welcome. I have a question about BPC 157. Is it better to do it during routines or during long breaks? BPC 157 is going to increase the healing response. So you're only really going to have an impact with it for the first 2 weeks on a break. So you need to be doing it the entire time. Thank you, Red, for posting the Discord link so quickly. But yeah, BPC 157 has conflicting evidence of its efficacy. I probably put on 1/4 inch in a month with it, but then I could never replicate it. I know people that have done BPC 157 and gained nothing. I know people that have gained BPC or used BPC 157 and gained a lot with it. So it's hard to tell if it actually works or not. Kenny, should I add 1 minute to my sets weekly? I'm still hitting expansion of 20 minutes. Also with the cock rings for 20 minutes after each session. As of right now, no. You should not be adding anything. Basically, we're trying to fight progressive overload as much as possible. So you can go up a little bit in pressure next month, but I would not really push the issue. Oh. Okay, I guess that was a good enough warm up. I do, let's see. Hot sunshine. I do 7 inches of mercury for pumping for 2 minutes, then release the air and then hold it for another 2 minutes. And do this for 20 minutes. Will I gain sign? How long do I have to wait to see results? So it depends on how bad your erection quality was to start. If you had piss poor erection quality, you should be seeing results in 2 weeks. But if you're like a normal guy, relatively decent erection quality, it's going to take at least 4 to 6 weeks to see appreciable changes on the ruler. But that's basically my interval pumping protocol from what I've could gather. So I know it's effective. It just, you got to make sure you're hitting your expansion later on, but that's not for like another 3 or 4 months before you really got to start caring about that. Aru, how is my coaching project going? So the gain-a-thon, we got our responses back from the 15 clients. I just need to pick them. So hopefully I can make the announcement on Friday, and then I can send these guys tripods, rulers, tape measure, and anything else they may need to actually take good pictures. But it should be starting, like videos should be starting 2 to 3 weeks from now. Is it better to use a sleeve that covers the whole shaft or a shorter sleeve that covers just the minimal amount? It shouldn't really matter. What my colleague Perv McSwerve does is he folds the sleeve up halfway. So he calls it double sleeving. I can get a couple more sets in this. Hold on. Or reps. But it doesn't really matter in the context. You may witness less skin stretching with the sleeve all the way down, which may lead to problems later on. But for the most part, it won't impact the gains, just appearance. JB, I meant 7%. I meant 7% strain after session, not with the device on. Is that a problem? That would mean to me that you are exceptionally tight before your routines. So like either you're not pulling very hard at the beginning, or you're very tense and it takes a while for you to relax. Because 7% is like nearing where you would see an ankle sprain, for example, in terms of fatigue and damage. So if I was you, I would see what you are after doing, let's say, a hot towel wrap for 2 to 3 minutes, and then compare your after session length to that. Okay, donkey teeth. Have you ever felt a pop while stretching? I have not personally, but it is relatively common. All it really is, like it doesn't have any pain associated with it, is your ligaments rubbing back and forth. It's kind of like cracking your knuckles almost. So like if your ligaments snap against each other, it's going to make a noticeable pop. It's not a huge deal. And I would say it's a largely genetic thing. Now, if it was slightly painful, like you just said, I would take some time off. You probably strained a ligament. It is very hard to rupture the tunica, so you probably didn't do any actual damage. But, like, the ligaments can be a little easy to damage if you're not careful. For the most part, though, 2 weeks off. You can do, like, light stretching in the meantime. But I would not be too concerned about it long term. If you keep having it happen, then I'd be concerned about it. So I'm setting up for like a cable press because my shoulder's a bit fucky, and that's why I did the, behind the head stretches. Should probably just do a normal pec stretch too. What's that? 16. Okay, Donta, what is my advice on stretching the D, or straightening the penis? So, there is a few things, and I'm messing with my tripod here. Give me 1 second. There's a few things you need to be concerned with Peronis and other kinds of curvature. The main thing is some kind of breakdown effect. So like you need to break down the fibrosis or plaque buildup or whatever you want to call it. Depends on what your issue is. So you're going to do like 20 minutes of massage mechanics, and then you're going to wear a low tension extender practically all day for like at least 4 hours. And that's going to break down the tissue and then keep it straight so it doesn't form in that not straight shape. It's really that simple to treat Peyronie's for the most part. If you have severe Peyronie's, you might need something called Xyliflex. But it really depends on how severe it is and how fast you want results. Okay. Adrian, how do you do maintenance to a vacuum pump? I found these connectors for the hose, and where can I find the connectors for the hose and cylinder? So if you need new ones, I know our manufacturer just sent us like 100 to 200. Red, correct me if I'm wrong, but email help@peakmale We'll send you some new connectors. And we also sell replacement, what are they? Replacement tubes. But for the most part, the only maintenance you should really need to do to your pump is wash it, because we're not really going to be gunking up the main valve all that much. What's 55? What is it? After Dark says everyone should hit that thumbs up. You're welcome to do that. I'm not going to make you, though. Red, didn't I send you a nice little picture box to do the product updates for me? Correct me if I'm wrong. But you have my permission to take pictures, as long as it's with the white background. Or you can use the black background as a dark item, and then we can Photoshop it properly. Okay, Donkey Teeth. I do manuals. I had to take a month and a half off because of a lung issue, and it didn't ease my way into stretching. I went to full bore. Yeah, that would probably do it, so hopefully you learned your lesson. I rarely start at full tilts when I come back to PE. I need to back up a bit. Woo. But I usually do 2/3 of my routine for the first 2 weeks before I get back up on the full tilt routine. And Red, I'm kind of just pulling your leg. I know you have a lot going on. It's not that big of a deal at this current moment. Oh yeah. So Red ran this by me. He said I should make an ebook for weightlifting. And before I waste all this effort in doing that, let me know if I actually should. Because, like, I'm not trying to make a lot of money off of it, obviously, but the effort has to be there. Okay. Tula, I think that the soft clamping helped my glands grow, or future grow last 2 weeks. My glands are more full and the shape is a little more wide. So the glands are very easy to grow. Like, I could probably equate at least 1/4 of an inch of my length gains in the past year and a half to just my glands growing. So, like, my glands literally doubled in size since 2020. So, yeah, glands in general, since they don't really have the tunica, don't have like the same growth limit as like the shaft. Ugh. And these are actually harder than I thought. Oh, okay. How do you feel about switching cylinders mid-session? For the most part, you'd have to be like really close in between sizes. Uh, for example, I use a 2 and 1/8 for like my touch-up sessions, AM and PM, and then my 2 1/4 for my actual sessions because I'll pack the 2 and 1/8 pretty quickly. But in general, you should probably just start with the size up because it's not that big of a deal unless you're like trying to target the certain part on the shaft. So like if you're trying to get more mid shaft, start with the narrower cylinder and then go to the bigger one. Ooh. Tula, how do I fit on the vacuum cup? Lately, not well, and I've actually been getting a lot of blisters since I'm a little bit too big for the one I have now. So I have to tape to make sure it doesn't expand too much. Why did I bring that up? I'm trying to figure out what I want to do after that. I guess we'll just switch to regular incline. I'll bring the camera back down. Actually, that's a good height. Give me 1 second, I'll be back to chat. Hey, Forsaken. So, Infinite, I know you're joking, but you need a relatively high RPM. So, unless their hips are moving literally 2,400 times a minute, it is not going to work. Okay. So, Daniel, what is the chances, in my opinion, to develop some real Venus League 2? I'm assuming you mean extreme PE. Is that it's possible to lose erection due to accumulated fatigue in the tissue. So you wouldn't have like a venous leak. A venous leak is like when the insides of the vein flip around and it breaks the little valves inside of it so it can't like help channel blood properly. But you can over fatigue the tissues to the point where you cannot keep an erection easily. But that's normally because of the muscles of the pelvic floor being too tired to actually maintain an erection more than chances of the venous leak, because the penis itself doesn't really have working tissue in the regards to like it actually mediates the erection. It just holds blood, and then the pelvic floor is what causes the erection. So unless you have like an actual breakdown of the vein, which is extremely difficult despite what you might read on Thunder's Place, you won't have any long-lasting issues doing too much PE unless it's like fibrosis, and that's a different story. And this is more of a decline press. What do you know? Hot Sunshine, have you said anything that wasn't PG? YouTube will hide it from me, so I will not see it. So get creative. If you gotta use emojis to get your point across, so be it. Okay. What do I use for hair? Honestly, right now, Head and Shoulders shampoo, and then Garnier Fructis conditioner. Most guys can have pretty damn good hair in general if they just take care of it, and that's like half the battle. So if you don't wash it frequently and condition, that's the main thing, is conditioning, you're not gonna have good hair. And then you need to comb it out and make sure it sits the way you want to have it sit. Today my hair is fucking wild because it was really dry in my bedroom last night. So I think general pumping on top of hanging takes shit to the next level. Not sure how he said shit, but all right. I don't like the pump. See, the pump is the best part of PE because it's immediate results. Only problem is that it takes a bit, right? Like, and you don't get to keep it. So like, I can be 6 3/4 for about 4 to 5 hours, but then you're kind of left wanting more. Robert, can 30 minutes of manuals equal 30 minutes of extending? Depends on how you modulate it, but there's potential that manuals actually have more fatigue than 30 minutes of extending depending on the variables. So like if you break it up into 60 30-second sets, you can get a lot more chances of collagen fatigue compared to one set of 30 minutes of extending, especially if it's relatively low weight. So it really just depends on how you set up your routine. Well, Forsaken, that's your first problem. If you're not using shampoo, you're never getting rid of the old oils. And your hair can look pretty damn gross if you're not careful, especially if you go to the gym a lot. So I get a decent shampoo, maybe start every other day to make sure you don't overly dry out your hair, and then condition. TJM, I have not had time to look at the Vertica, and I'm sorry because it's been kind of nuts over at Peak Male Physique and Leviathan. You can ask Red for details, but like we have at least 2 or 3 video projects we're working on. I'm working on a new book. We are fixing some branding issues with Leviathan. So like most of my days I am typing for 4 to 6 hours at this current moment. But Red, if you're still here, remind me to look at the Vertica. But I did think about what you were saying a little more about radio frequency, and there's something, it's either multi-olar or triolar radio wave frequency, and that is used to treat cellulite. And for those who don't know what cellulite is, it's a little rimpling of fat because the collagen molecules are too tight surrounding the fat, so it kind of makes a rippling effect in the skin. If you can get those collagen molecules to loosen, the skin's smoother, therefore it's less unsightly. So if you use that with PE, the radio frequency like you were talking about, you could potentially loosen tight fibers. I'm not exactly sure how well it would treat, let's say, Peyronie's, but like if you just have a relatively stiff flaccid, it should be a decent help. Hopefully that was a decent enough answer for you, TJ. Okay. Hot Sunshine. I'm new. Do I put the rubber ring on after pumping? Should I do pumping 5 days a week or once a week every other day? So you should wear the cock ring for about 10 minutes after pumping. You should pump for 3 sets, 5 minutes at most right now. And basically we're just kind of training your dick to hold more blood before we're really trying to build it up. Okay, so hold on for a second. My hair improved after quitting shampoo. So the way shampoo works is that it strips all the oils from your hair. And then the conditioner comes in and replaces the oils. So you can't shampoo without conditioning. That's where a lot of guys get it wrong. But like, for the most part, the only time you actually really need to wash your hair is when you're overly sweaty, because the salts in your sweat will dry out your hair too. So if you're doing well with no shampoo, that's fine. It's just all the hair products on the market are going to be based off of washing and then conditioning. Okay, hold on, guys. Last set of this. But Mr. Tula asked for the best machine for back at Planet Fitness. And it's going to be a 2-parter because you first need to activate the lats. And I'll point that out here in a second, how to do that. Okay, so for back, the main thing, and literally probably the most important thing, like this is what most of the top bodybuilders will do, is they will do some kind of lat activation, which means they isolate the lats. Some places have machines that you just set your arm in and they pull it back. But the movement you're looking for is elbows to hips. So when you're doing straight arm pull downs, this is the go-to for me at least. So this goes all the way up. Pretend I have a rope attachment. Start here, come up, and then you're gonna feel it all in your back. So like you're gonna get a shot of my ass, but like your lats will activate. You do 3 sets of 10 before any back workout with straight arm pull downs, and then do some kind of machine row where you don't have to focus on form, just the feeling in your back. And I can almost guarantee you, you will have a sore back after that, because most people don't have a strong muscle-mind connection to their back. And it took me like 3 to 4 months to develop a decent one. But like in general, any kind of activation, that's why I do flies before bench press, for example, to activate my chest. That way you get the full muscle working with you. All right, Aru, how important is it for a warm-up, like blood flow restriction therapy? So I'm assuming you mean blood flow restriction massage before length and girth work. Is there a significant difference between 5 minutes and 10 minutes in warm-ups? So I probably do about 5 minutes in total of, we'll just call it massage mechanics in my routine. There is a huge difference, particularly when you're first starting it, and then your body kind of gets used to being in this relaxed state and you don't need to do it as much. When I first started teaching it, literally I would have people doing it for like 20 minutes and then do 20 minutes of pumping. 6 weeks later, they can drop it down to 10 minutes, do 30 to 40 minutes of pumping instead. I don't really teach it that way anymore because it's a bit overdone, but in general, any kind of massage mechanic warm-up is going to be much better for girth work, for length work. It's not as big of a deal. Okay. Yeah, I'm done with these ones. So we'll do plate, twist, then probably move the biceps because I feel like they're looking a bit small today. But okay, and Daniel, suppose I'm very overworked and can't maintain and have a good erection. What do I do besides rest? So like, if you're worried about like having pelvic floor fatigue, honestly, the best thing you can do is relax, and that's a bit easier said than done. But like, there's something called the frog's pose, and let's see, this is going to be another money shot for you guys, but essentially you start wide, go down, hands forward, push back, and then what I like to do is I like to pulse while doing this. And this is going to basically open up your hips, and since everything is connected on a string essentially in your pelvis, because it's all so intertwined, you are going to be able to like work the erection muscle, which is the ischiocavernous muscle. Now, another thing you can do is Hindu squats. So you're going to go up on your toes, you're going to come down, keep your back as straight as possible, and that's going to open up your hips as well. This is a bit harder, especially if you don't have a lot of leg strength. And then finally, you can do butterflies. I don't really get much out of this one, but it's literally bringing your feet as close as you can to your Johnson and then pulling up on your toes, holding all these for about 15 to 30 seconds, and that's going to help open up the pelvic floor without any like need for massage mechanics. Okay, a little lower. Now you can also get a bit handsy with it and like literally massage just under your pelvis. and that's going to be the iliopsoas muscles as well. But for the most part, if you just do enough rest and potentially just those stretches, you'll rejuvenate your pelvic floor. Okay, Hitman, would you rather get a lot of edema or not have it? When I get it, not a lot of it, I have a better session. I strongly believe edema should be limited as much as possible, because otherwise you get a pooling effect in the skin and not so much a pooling effect in the shaft. So if we're trying to stretch the tissue, the tunica albuginea, we need to have all that swelling localized inside the tunica albuginea, right? So try to limit that skin swell as much as possible. Again, it's easier said than done, but like for me, that means no sessions over 30 minutes of pumping. Using a pump sleeve can really help limit water travel up the skin, staying properly hydrated, making sure the electrolytes are balanced. That kind of things go a long way to limiting edema. And also, this is probably the biggest thing, is figuring out the right rep range. So for me, 2 minutes of interval pumping sets, or reps, I guess, depending how you want to look at it, is how I get the best return on time under pressure. And let's see, Hot Sunshine, thank you for the super chat. I did see it, I just did not acknowledge it until now. Okay. Zero, how long do temp games last? I feel like it's only a few hours. The more you move around, the less they last. So like if I pump right before bed, I'll also have a pretty good pump the next morning. But if, let's say, I do my pump session and then I go to the gym immediately following, a lot of that swelling is going to be dissipated because your heart's moving, therefore blood's moving, and it flushes it out more. And any kind of like cardio that helps make the lymphatic system move, because that vibration causes basically a little pump effect. But in general, 2 to 6 hours, you can keep probably about 60% of that expansion. BD, my small flaccid is really messing with me negatively. Says Forsaken, should I split my pumping sessions to 2 sets and have bigger flaccid effect throughout the day? What you should do is do a small session AM and PM, and then do your normal session as well. So like you're going to do very light work AM and PM, and then whenever you do your normal PE, go normal working rate. And I just noticed this wasn't all the way up. Okay. And okay, JB, in order to know the frequency you use with the vibration device, you could use a tachometer and divide the RPM by 60. So you can do that, or you can wait for someone smarter than you to post it on your Reddit and extrapolate off of that. So someone did basically that. They used a tachometer and a voltage meter to make sure the RPM was right. And then I just copied them. And then since it seemed like it was a linear progression, because if we wanted 60% power, it was directly at 60% on the knob, I was able to tell, okay, if that's 60%, 30 hertz, we can get 20 hertz at like 1/3 power. Okay, Tula. Do I train pull-ups? Not really, and it's more so because I don't have the greatest grip strength in the world. I used to train them a decent bit, but like you can get most of the heavy lifting you need done with rows, and then use the lateral pull down to get the rest of the lat. JB, it should be on Cult of BD from what I remember. So r/Cult of BD, no space. And that is an ironic subreddit I made because people said getting bigger was turned into a cult before I left it. So I made my own subreddit that was literally a cult. Okay, so another steroid question. Y'all are trying to get me demonetized, but does oral proviron help with PE? Not in the slightest. And basically, proviron was designed to be a shitty version of DHT when we look at it from like an androgenic perspective. So it is at least half as androgenic as testosterone, which is like 1/7 the androgenicity. Yes, I just made that word up, of DHT. So we're like getting 1/14 of the androgen effect of just DHT. All steroids are designed to like limit androgenic effects almost in totality. So most of the effects that most people want to avoid, particularly when you're treating cancer and muscle wasting diseases, is making sure they don't grow beard and enlarge their clitoris when you're trying to treat breast cancer, right? So they're trying to make sure that those molecules only keep and retain muscle. It won't do anything for penis enlargement. Additionally, I think proviron's relatively hard on the liver, so you're better off looking for Masteron, and that's an injection. Hot Sunshine, when do I do your live stream? I try to do 2 p.m. Eastern every day. That will depend on your timeline to what that equates to, but like this time, Monday through Friday. All right, Hitman. Should we start supplementing with collagen in order to increase collagen fibrils? I do it anyway because I go to the gym, but still. So, hold on, hair's on my mouth. I'll have to fix it after the set. If you have ample amount of animal protein, there is no point in supplementing collagen for health or for penis enlargement because there's only so much you can digest in a certain time. And additionally, since the tunica albuginea is in a vascular tissue, meaning that it does not have an active blood supply despite being a pressure vessel for blood, it will not have any benefit of flooding it with amino acids. It would need to be direct application to the tunica albuginea through like a transdermal to have any effect. But collagen needs to be digested, so you would literally need to get like a powder that has all 20 amino acids. And the only place I have seen it is like in medical surplus stores because it's for people that are starving. And then make that into a lotion, and then hopefully enough of it gets through your skin and through all your fascias to transfer through the tunica. Okay, Willie Wood, how can you achieve strain with manuals? So any kind of stretching is going to create some form of strain, right? It just depends on how much you stretch and how many times you stretch to get that strain to be calculable. So you should really be tracking what I call fatigue, and that is your before session length compared to your after session length. Your delta should be 2%, so you should be about 2% longer, stretch flaccid after your session, potentially even erect if like you're lucky, but I cannot promise that. All right. Obi Kenobi, I think that's how you say it. I've been doing your recommended routine for GERD for many months at high pumping pressures. I've seen 0 gains. Wait, there is more. So first and foremost, are you hitting expansion? If you're not hitting expansion, that's going to be a lot of the battle. You're not getting enough fatigue generated. So how you're going to measure that is your beginning erect length, followed by your session erect length, or after your session erect length with a cock ring. Okay, and you just answered that. So, Obi, have you been doing any of these retention tactics? I really think that's a lot of the missing piece for a lot of guys, and essentially that would be like 10 to 20 minutes of cock ring wear after the session, and then doing fluffer sets AM and PM. That's what I've been doing lately, and I've noticed much faster improvements in girth than I would normally do. Okay. Okay, hold on. Robert had a lifting thing come in. Two opposite cancer grips and straps. I'm a strong, long time lifter. I just prefer my hands. Grip strength does not hold me back until I get 2x my body weight. Chin ups plus 65 for 12 reps. So I much prefer using my hands too. I get much better tactile feedback. It's just I wanted to make sure that my grip strength is not actually limiting my other movements, especially when I'm doing like higher rep rows. But I did not really start using wraps until I got to about, I guess it was like 1.9 body weight on deadlifts. I do not watch horror Forsaken for the most part. I couldn't give you my favorite horror movie, even if I've really thought about it. Now, Infonaut says, do you think 50-50 of the manuals and pumping gave Hink games, or do you think it was like 70% pumping and 30% stretching? So the stretching will basically tell where your body needs to produce collagen, because the stem cells feel the stretch and migrate towards the stretch to produce more collagen. So if you're going for length, you need to stretch. The pumping does a couple things like pulling in more nutrients, and also teaches the penis to hold more blood and build more blood vessels. So like most of his gains were mediated by his stretching, because he has gained a lot more length and girth. Trying to think. But for the most part, you're going to need a decent ratio no matter what. So I think Hank did about 30 minutes of manuals and 10 to 15 minutes with Hydromax. So like if you look at what he did, it was 66% length oriented, 33% girth oriented. Or more accurately, 66% elongation, and then 33%, 34% expansion. Forsaken, it's not because I'm a scared. It's just, I think they're very predictable. Everyone dies in the end, for the most part. It just doesn't interest me all that much. That's something I haven't seen in a while. Blum. Wait. I'm just going to call you Zai. Do men really need vitamin D3 at 10,000, or is that 100,000? That's 10,000 IU plus vitamin K2 a day. No, that study is nonsense. They were basically funded by a company that was trying to sell a whole bunch of vitamin D and vitamin K, like dead serious, and that showed the potential gains, but it was clearly like a fabricated study just to sell those supplements. Okay. Kenny, I don't have time to do 2 feeder sets, but I could do one before bed. Would this be optimal for my time? It would definitely help. That's all I can really say. Basically, the more often you stretch the tissue in that shape, the more likely it is to form in that new shape. So if you can just wear a cock ring and get erect for 10 to 20 minutes, that's going to help too. The pumping is going to stretch it a bit more than that though, right? So Robert, back to grips. For deadlift, I do mixed grip after 2 times body weight. I can't stand mixed grip, and it like fucks with my shoulder. So I'm still going to be using straps, and I really got to mess around with my Versa grips more. Zai, do you think I can add magnesium chloride plus baking soda in the bath mate with Epsom salt? Should it be good? I have no clue. I know Epsom salt is relatively safe, but adding in baking soda and magnesium could potentially like cause some kind of reaction and cause some brittleness to form on the plastic, but I'm not like a chemist, so I couldn't tell you. And then fit parent project. How much post increased session are you now with the Apex? So I mean like post session length with the Apex. I have not trained for length in well over a month at this point, but right now, just like if I pull out on my D, it's gonna be like 9.25, and typically I'll get 4% longer. So I need a calculator. So whatever 9.25 times 1.04, that'd be like 9 and 1 or 9 and 5 ace without vibrations. I've been much more focused on girth lately. I do want to switch back to length, but you know, I'm not really too worried about it. As long as I'm growing at this point. Should do curls. Should probably massage out my bicep first though. Let's see. Stretch flaccid, that's right. Thanks, Kenny, for the super chat, and have a good one. Let's see. So, fit parent, I would be about 4% longer stretch flaccid most sessions, unless we're adding in vibrations, and that's going to be upwards of 6% longer. Then I do notice that I'm probably a decent bit longer to erect, but it's not going to be like I'm over 9.5 inches. I'd be lucky to be like 9 1/8 to 9.25. So 9.5 post session flaccid, yes. Okay, so hold on. Obi Kenobi said he was wearing cock rings. He's having issues gaining under my routine. I started even doing everyday sessions because one off, one on wasn't successful. However, I don't want to do AM and PM sessions due to fatigue. So if you limit like the total pressure to like 70%, so let's say you're doing 10 HG, you want to do 7 HG for these feeder sets, and that really kind of opened it up for me is a good way to put it. Like I notice I'm expanding even more than normal, and then like that size just sticks around longer. I'm almost training it in a way to be relaxed this big, and then that should equate to better gains down the road. So if you can work it into your schedule, please try it out and let me know. Do you think expansive clamping instead of pumping could initiate my games? So it's possible. For me, it is very rare to see someone not be able to gain with pumping. But like, I wouldn't say very rare. Like, there's a 20% chance that you won't be able to gain with pumping. So if you try expansive clamping, you're better off at looking like at M9's methods before you look at mine, because he actually gained with it. I didn't really give it enough of a chance to see proper gains with it, but main thing is I would prefer you to do soft clamping over hard clamping if you're going to switch, just because you get much better occlusion. Okay, curls. All right, Forsaken. After doing PE, your stretch flaccid is the first thing that increases new gain, and stretch flaccid is an indicator of your new erect length. If you keep doing PE, does it translate? It's a mixed bag. So Hank likes to say what your stretch flaccid is now is what you're going to be in 6 months. That's not 100% accurate, especially when you do fatigue-based training like I do, because flexibility comes much faster. Like I have pictures where I am 9 3/4 stretch flaccid when I was like really deep into a length session, or training period. but I stopped for 3 or 4 days, and I couldn't get past 9 1/4. So your, we'll call it your cold stretch flaccid length, is going to be potentially how big you can be in 6 months, but you can really fuck with it. So there's a relatively notable person who only shows his stretch flaccid length, and it kind of drives me nuts because, like, I know for a fact how easily that can be manipulated. Ah, damn it. Okay. Okay. So fit project. Hold on. I missed a couple. With vibration, I'm longer the post measure session. Yeah, exactly. So if you're talking erect, yeah, I've noticed it too, and it's like noticeable by eye. So like I can look down, like my dick looks significantly longer, but it could also just be that it's kind of skinnier as well because it's, you know, stretched in that shape. But do you ever measure your D while using the Apex? I used to. I just now do it before and after, just because it's easier to get an accurate measurement. And then Fit Parent. Well, that's what's up. Yeah, I noticed the same thing, similar to where you are right now, and it seems to get erect. It goes down a little bit, like you're saying. So my erect goes up after a bit of a length session, just because it's like trained and fatigued, so that way I can exert more pressure. That doesn't mean everyone can do it. I would assume that a lot of it is that I have relatively exceptional erection quality, so like I can exert enough pressure to get that size boost, but you know. Okay, Caskin. I've seen my length and girth classification charts just below average for both. How cooked am I? And how much could I improve 6 months if I commit to PE? So there is absolutely nothing wrong with you right now. You are smaller than average, sure, but like there are women with smaller than average vaginas. It is not the end of the world. That's the first thing. With below average guys, a lot of the times they're actually average with low erection quality. So if you boost your erection quality in your first couple months, you can potentially gain like a half an inch. I'm not making any promises. I don't know your situation, but you can gain a half an inch pretty fast in erection quality. I could easily see you going from a below average classification to just above average within a year if you really, you know, hunker down and just do it. I think he retracted his message. Anyway, Proto Expire. What was your take on vibration expansion of the motor on the top bar of the Apex? Okay. Most of you guys probably missed my opening rant. We need to stop copying Foulback. They did not work properly. No one has verifiable picture proof beyond what's normal. So putting the Apex or putting the vibrator on top of the Apex while that generates a novel stimulus, that's not vibration therapy. That is just stretching really fast. Vibration therapy requires direct application of the vibrations into the tissues. You are not going to get anything similar to that with bouncing up the springs on your Apex very fast. To me, it seems like a very good way to get a blister, and I kind of wish they would just stop, but you know. uh, so I have not tried it. There's no real science behind it. Like what I'm doing is I'm basing my stuff off of physical therapy research, specifically right now, vibration plate therapy. And I will not try it until someone has photo proof of it actually working. Okay, Fit Parent. So the main goal is to get to 9 inches regular to be pretty much 10 inches bone press, right? That's pretty much your goal. Well, I wouldn't call 9 inches regular, but non-bone pressed or exposed length, but you know, that's semantics. My goal is to get as big as my wife allows me to get. So lately, she has admitted that she's a bit of a size queen, and that has basically given me the green light to get absolutely ridiculous. But I'm going to shoot for 10 and a half inches if I don't get bored of PE in the meantime, and we'll go from there. Daniel, does 10 milligrams of Cialis make your nose stuffy? For me, it really depends on the source. So, like, as we have discussed in great length on last stream, sourcing Cialis is very easy without a prescription. One source flushes me like crazy, gives me a very stuffy nose. Good chance it's very overdosed. The source I have now does not give me any of those issues. And it could also be the difference between using like a actual powder pill versus using a suspension. Does pumping increase stretch flaccid? And if it does, shouldn't it be more effective at increasing length? 99% of PE practitioners use pumping strictly for girth and EQ improvements. So I've been really heavy pumping lately, right? I have seen stretch flaccid fatigue, but it's not going to be anywhere near as effective as if you were just doing length work, because we are stretching this way and this way. We have two different kinds of dissipation of the force. So while it will fatigue length a bit, it's not going to be nearly as efficient as just using a stretcher. The main thing with increasing flaccid size with a pump is that you're literally filling it with fluid for 4 to 6 hours a day. And that's going to just train the flaccid to be bigger. Zai, I don't know why Bathmate gets so much hate. It's a really good pump and type gains are super great, but not a lot of edema. So, if you're a new guy, you can gain a decent amount with Bathmate. But if you were 3 to 5 years into your PE career like myself when you first got your Bathmate, it's not going to do much, especially when you don't know. We didn't know as much as we know now, is a good way to put it. So you can definitely make the Bathmate work. My business partner has. I just think an air pump is so much better, mainly because you can still use it with water and get the exact same effects as the Bathmate. Daniel Levy, do you still recommend gua sha tunica shearing? I do not use it personally, but I can see use cases where it's very useful. So like if you've done PE for a long ass time, for example, like longer than 3 years, it is going to help smooth out the collagen fibrils faster than any kind of massage mechanic can. If you have any kind of Peyronie's, it's going to smooth out that plaque much faster, at least the superficial plaque, much faster. It is a good warm-up, but like it is not going to excrete the same kind of growth factors doing BFR massage or diamond gel swill, because it's not getting like the deep layers of the penis. We're gonna have to get to that one in a bit. Let's see. Infinite. I like how Hank tries to keep people in the PE game by reminding people how long this takes. Gotta be committed. So this is like a minor gripe with Hank, just a very small one, and I think he underestimates what's possible with PE, just because he is, I wouldn't say risk averse, but he's also like trying to keep it as realistic as possible. But at the same time, he's just kind of making games seem a little bit harder than they really are. Okay, so Tyler, what's the best way for temporary enhancement before a hookup? Depends on how much time you have. Literally, if you do a moderate length routine followed by like 15 minutes of pumping, you're going to be fucking gigantic compared to what you normally are. Wear a cock ring for 10 to 20 minutes before you go out on your date. That swelling's going to stick around much longer. And just don't do any crazy active things during your date. So like maybe don't go dancing if your plan is just to be as big as possible. Oh god, chats are coming in too fast. Okay, Trailer Park Boy, I think you're from Reddit normally. Does the protein thermic effect increase blood flow? If so, would that help PE? If it does, it's going to be marginal at best. Any kind of eating is going to put you into the parasympathetic state, however, so that will help you relax, and that should help you get more flow to your genitals, but like, I wouldn't count on it. I do notice I get a lot better pumps if I do a protein shake while lifting, though. I'm not saying chug some protein during your PE sessions, but like just keeping your nutrient load in your bloodstream relatively high, and it should just have benefits everywhere. Hold on, my stream's being fucky. Okay, Hitman. Honestly, people need to lose a good amount of weight. If they're overweight, I just think they have bad EQ, so I never knew what my true size is. So like here in the States, people are really fat. Like I don't think people realize how fat people are in the States. Like I'm a big guy. I'm like 230 pounds. It's hard to tell how big I am on camera, but like, sorry, I thought there was a beetle coming at me. It's just my neighbor doing some lawn work. The people around me make 230 pounds seem normal. Okay, so obviously, if you lose any mass on your body, whether it be muscle mass or fat, your dick is going to look bigger by comparison, especially if it's around here and right here. So yes, do what you can to lose weight. Most people are probably better off getting in shape before doing PE because you can literally probably increase the size visually 20% by just losing 40 pounds, 20 to 40 pounds. Easier said than done, but not to mention the erection quality increases. Okay. Taser the Snake, what is your opinion on pheromones for attracting women in real time? I'm not even sure if humans are overly sensitive to pheromones anymore because we have been wearing perfumes and nice smelling things for millennia. Now, would it have any effect? Maybe, but if you're counting on that to actually win them over, you are sorely mistaken. If the pheromones give you more confidence, by all means use them. But like I'm telling you now, it's not going to be the greatest effect. Okay. Zai, do you think Trenbolone will max out the Hydromac Extreme session? Well, I think Tren in general is a terrible a terrible steroid. It is actually really bad when you look at the effects of other steroids. Like, it is not a good steroid for muscle building. People use it as a cutting compound because it gives like a very specific drying effect. However, it is also a prolactin inducing drug, meaning that if your prolactin gets too high, you can get something called decadic, and that causes erectile dysfunction. So, abusing Trenbolone can really fuck up your erectile dysfunction and therefore making gains harder. JB, Double Long Daddy, that's the guy from Magic Size, used to push Baphomet because water pumping is better. I believe Double Long Daddy was also sponsored by Baphomet. So, take that as you will, but I believe he had a significant bias in his recommendation. That being said, one of the not percentage wise, just sheer size gainers I know use the Bathmate and manual stretches. 7 1's 10 on matters of size went from like 7 inches to 10.5 inches in about 3 to 4 years. So you use the Bathmate and stretching. It works. I just think an air pump's better, especially if you use it with water. Oh boy. All right, I believe I've just been referring to you as Deborah. Done PE for 21 straight. I just turned 20. Wait, what? I've gained about 1.5 inches and still gaining, but consistently. How more do you think I'll gain before I plateau? I think you meant 1 year straight or 21 months straight. Dude, there is no real limit to how much you can gain with smart breaks. So, like, if you take 3 to 4 months off of PE, your dick is going to be literally 2/3 weaker. So, like, you'll need 1/3 of the work to continuously seeing gains. So, if you plan these breaks out right, you will not plateau. And if you do plateau, take a break, come back, you'll start gaining again. There's no limit to how much you can gain, just how much you actually want. Double Dragons. I am not sure what M9's clamping routine is. I have not been on a joke for you in probably over a year. So you're going to have to go check that out for yourself. Nacho Macho. When you time pumping, do you do 15 minutes straight pumping or 15 minutes of pumping session? Because if pumping session is 15 minutes, then a break for 2 minutes doesn't equate to 15 minutes straight in the pump. Okay, now I get what you're saying. So he's saying when I say do 15 minutes of pumping, is it total time under pressure versus just 15 minutes of pumping? Like the entire act takes 15 minutes. For maintenance, the entire act should take 15 minutes. You're going to have a marginal loss in rest. But when you're looking at like my routines, particularly in my books, I am specifically saying 2 minutes times 10 under pressure. I typically deal with how long each set is. I used to just use a tablet to timer on my phone, and I could get it pretty accurate that way. Okay, Proto expired. Do you have any tips for someone trying to increase girth regionally? My base and head girth is much higher than my mid shaft. So your first step is to get something that limits base expansion. So that'll be a tighter cylinder. Now your issue is since you got a big glans, it'll probably pack the cylinder faster than the rest of your shaft. So you can wear something over your glands to limit expansion there. And that's basically all you got to do, because if the tissue can't stretch, it's not going to grow. So we've been actually using something like this for a while now. Like when I was focusing solely on mid shaft, I would use a tube that was too tight for my base. And then on top of that, I would put a silicone sleeve right at the base. So that way, no matter what, my shaft, the top half of my shaft will get all the expansion. Tula, I think Hink is talking about how people are lazy. Yeah, so really, Hink is more worried about people that want instant gratification. And I'm telling you now, dude, just look bodybuilding wise, it took me 10 years to get from 170-ish, 165, 170 to 230. And there was a lot of trial and error in that time. Penis enlargement is no different, and since there's less room for error, it is very easy to get off course. Yes, I'm familiar with Hank's thought processes. So Hank thinks that if the realistic gain in 1 year is a half an inch to a quarter of an inch, in your first year, you could potentially double that. And it's, to me, it's a little funny because Hank is one of the better gainers I know, and he probably gained a little more than that in his first year, give or take a few months. So, but like, if you don't have the best drive, shooting lower than that is realistic. It's just, I like to be optimistic, I guess is a good way to put it. Zai, any opinion on the Python clamp and Priya pumping? Uh, I think Priya pumping's pretty dangerous because you are basically causing extreme internal pressure while trying to exert external pressure. It's not a great idea. And then as for the air clamp, my main thing is it seems pretty damn thick for most normal sized men. So like if you're not over 6 inches long, it's not going to work half your shaft. How is vibration pumping going? So, Dos Loques. I don't want to say I'm doing solely vibration pumping, but like my routine for, I don't know why I grabbed these, I guess out of habit, but my routine is AM 3 to 5 minutes of diamond jokes, followed by we're just gonna say feeder sets of pumping, cockering for 10 minutes after the fact. 2 to 3 hours later, I'm going to come and do my vibration pumping, 10 to 20 minutes with the cockering afterwards. PM, 10 minutes of pumping, cockering afterwards. So the idea is between the vibration therapy, increasing collagen production, and all the shape training I'm doing throughout the day, I can basically coax any existing tissue I have into this new shape while producing tissue faster than I ever had before. That being said, I am yet to actually measure my erect size without a pump because I've been doing it like 4 to 5 days a week, and then I'm usually very busy on the days that I don't do PE. So I can't tell you how much I gained, but like my wife has definitely noticed. I have definitely noticed. So I will have an update eventually. All right, Zai. You're from Lithuania. Interesting. I don't think that's the most exotic country I've had a following with it. I know I've definitely shipped to Lithuania already. Anyway, do I think 9 inches of girth would be too much for women? Um, so my wrist is 7.5. Okay, right about here would be 9 inches. A hold on, I'm trying to think. A baby is about 12 inches. Like its head is about 12 inches in circumference, if not a little less. So you would need a very special woman to be able to handle that much girth. Okay, have I missed any interesting questions? Okay, so I've never used yohibamine, like yohimbe. I think it was either kratom or yohimbe that Hank said we shouldn't be using because it causes some liver issues. Um, I'll have to ask him later. I did not particularly use supplements all that much before I started Leviathan. And it's not so much that I didn't believe in them, it's just my money was better spent elsewhere. But Hank has kind of showed me the light, especially with this sleep supplement. Oh my God. That is the one thing I'm really excited for this year is just having access to that all the time. We're just using the sample now, so it's limited supply. But yeah, I'm not really a supplement guy. I sell them, but I'm not nearly as knowledgeable as Hank is. Let's see. Does cold showers affect PE at all? So, in general, it won't really impact collagen production or anything. The main thing you want to be concerned about is like going into a shriveled state more than you really need to. And that's just based off of my new findings, you know, wanting to be near the shape you always want to be. So, like, if you do pumping right after your cold shower, it's completely mitigated. And then my current length routine is really fucking simple because I've been using vibrations. So I'm doing vibrations at like 30 hertz with the apex. So like I'll strap the vibrator to my dick. 30 minutes of that, you know, turn it off and on every 10 minutes or so just to make sure my nerves are staying healthy. But then I'll pump for like 10 minutes later on, and that's literally been my girth or length routine lately. Can you make gains with manuals only if you've already made gains with the apex and pump? There's no rule why you would not be able to game with manuals. I just think it is highly inconvenient to use manuals, and you'll immediately go back to be using the pump and apex whenever you get the chance. uh, I will use manuals on vacation, but like even now, I've been taking my pump on vacation, so like it's just so inconvenient for me to actually use manuals. Um, let's see, Zai. Opinion on clenbuterol for fat loss and cardarine for endurance. So, first of all, I have experience with cardarine. I cannot say it did all that much for me. I'm not exactly sure if I had a bad source or a bad dose. Like, I just did not take enough, but it did not do all that much for me. Granted, my endurance could have already been so piss poor that there was no helping it at that time. Clenbuterol, I would be very careful using that just because it is a pretty notable stimulant. It's used for asthma treatment and it helps dilate, and then that also causes a thermogenic effect from what I remember. So, if you're going to use that for fat loss, it's going to be a fucking with your sleep for sure, and I think you could develop a cough with it if you're not careful. I would also consider using a semaglutide. So, like, what is it? Ozempic or Mounjaro before you use either of those because that's a little more safer and more. Yeah, clenbuterol is very bad for cardiac muscle. So that's basically that's a big no for me. But yeah, while GLP-1s, the semaglutides, are not overly studied, they're going to be probably safer than abusing clenbuterol. All right, Landon. I find it very hard to be completely fasted in the apex when doing vibrations. Is it fine to be semi-erect when doing it? For the most part, yeah, it is completely fine to have some bit of fluff while using the apex. In general, you just don't want to be erect. And like even then, I think the risk of stretching while erect was overstated very early, and it's not that big of a deal unless you're using like a compression hanger. Okay, this is the last thing I'm going to answer because I'm losing my voice. Chill Bear, I had a dream of a new PE device that looked like a PMP pump with just a huge condom that would wrap around it in your D and it would cause suction. Yeah, I don't think that's physically possible. We are working on a vibration device. I still have to talk to Hank about that. We've been very, very busy with other issues this past month, but we are going to start making our own devices. I am trying to source non-generic stuff, so like I'm trying to get mail hanger in on the store. I'm really trying to get Perv to let me sell Apex on his store. Um, and then we're gonna have our own custom stuff here eventually, but I can't tell you if that dream device you had is going to be on Peak Mouth Physique anytime soon. So I'm gonna wrap it up here. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Again, I'll be here tomorrow, 2 p.m. Eastern. Later.